Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. That's why you wait to fire people until the end of the day, or more preferably before the day starts. Never ever before lunch. Let's tell you why in our first story, which took place many years ago. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. The right tool for the job. This is an old one, and I was just an observer, but I think some of you will still get a kick out of it. Many years ago, I took a co-op job on a construction site as an electrician's helper. There was a guy on another crew who had one of those nail guns that take a small blank pistol cartridge and fire nails into concrete. Sorry, I don't recall the name of it. I don't know what his job was, but you'd see him from time to time looking over a set of prints, then hear that thing going off a few minutes later. After the first time or two, it just became background noise and nobody really paid attention to it. One day, while my crew was taking my lunch break, we heard that nail gun firing over and over and over. Normally you'd hear one or two shots and then it'd be quiet for a while. So this was a bit unusual, but nothing that anyone bothered to investigate. 30 minutes later, there was some yelling and a lot of cursing coming from the same general area the nail gun had been during lunch. Curiosity finally got the better of me, and I made an excuse to head over that way. I was greeted by the sight of several guys staring at a toolbox in the middle of the floor. It turns out the guy with the nail gun had gotten into an argument with his boss and was fired. He waited until his boss went off-site to lunch and came back. He found his boss's newish toolbox, opened it up, took out all the tools, and proceeded to permanently fasten it to the concrete floor before carefully putting everything back in the box. I have no idea what the fight was about or who was in the wrong, but I can't help but be amused by this even decades later. And our second story. You don't need to stick to a contract because you're my mother? Good luck with that. This happened roughly 5 years ago, just after I turned 18. My mother was running a small art supply shop in the small farming community I grew up in. She took the shop over after the original owners went bankrupt and sold it off. She was doing a pretty good job. Both of my parents are pretty business-minded and would make amazing business partners if they could stand being in the same room with each other longer than 30 minutes. Just making a few silly choices here and there, and she got us kids to help out quite often. One visit during the Christmas holiday, I'd come up from my dad's to stay for about a month, and my mother had the amazing idea to teach the three kids, me, just turned 18, brother 16, stepsister 8, about having a real job and printed up contracts for us to become employees under her. For my brother and sister, these were not worth the paper they were written on as they were under 18, but because I was 18, it would have been legally binding. This wasn't her intention after all, but I wasn't willing to take the risk, so I filled it out with complete BS, putting my name down as Elvis, saying I had jail time, drawing a cat as a signature, etc. She went nuts on me. I was apparently being disrespectful and childish, and when I tried to explain myself, I was told to shut up and not backtalk to her. The conversation would go word for word, "Mom, how could you do this? Why would you do something so stupid?" Me. "Because I'm..." "Mom, shut up. I'm still talking." After this, it was dropped and everyone carried on working like normal. Then I started to notice small and stupid things Mom would yell at the kids for. They come in from lunch 5 minutes late, they're in breach of contract. A friend comes in and talks to them for 2 minutes, they're in breach of contract. They want to go to the movies with a friend and have a proper holiday for a day, you're in breach of contract. This is when I decided to read the contract. I didn't before as I had no intention of signing it, and it was ridiculous. Pay was minimum wage, travel cost plus food cost, and came out to like 5 NZD a week. No days off unless you were seriously sick, 30-minute lunch break in an 8-hour day, no personal communication during work hours, no food or drink while working. Arriving late and leaving early would be penalized, and these were the worst/ones I can remember. I decided this was total BS and I needed to teach her something, So using my limited legal knowledge from my IT degree, I rewrote the contract, minimum wage with travel reimbursed, paid day off for something as little as a cold, 1 hour lunch break, personal conversation allowed as long as I'm working at the same time, leaving and arriving 20 minutes late or early caused no penalty. Also, due to my IT qualifications, any hour I do IT-related work gained double pay, even if it was just for 5 minutes. Contract became void after 2 weeks. I was due to go home in 3. I took this new contract to my mom at the end of a week. Me: Mom, I'm sorry for being a pain about the contract, so I read through it, corrected some mistakes I could see, and signed it for you. Mom: Oh, thank you. I'll get that signed immediately, and it'll start on Monday. To my brother and sister: See, this is good to learn. I purposely left some mistakes for you to find, but neither of you read your contracts. Always read your contract carefully. Sure enough, she signed it without reading it, gave me a copy, and I was employed for a few weeks. When it came about time to hand in our hours and get paid, my brother and sister went first, got their $5, and were happy. When my turn came, I handed over a notebook with my detailed notes on every task I did, how long it took, and at the end, a bill for about $300. I'd done a lot of IT work in overtime to fix her work computer, and handed me $5. Me: This looks a bit light. Mom: No, you get $5 because... She goes through the rundown of the old contract's billing. Me: Yes, but that's their contract, not mine. Check the notebook and contract. Mom checks notebook, getting gradually more pissed off. I'm not paying you this. This is ridiculous. Me: But you signed the contract. You agreed to it. Hands her a copy of the signed contract. She reads the contract, then refuses to pay it if she's my mother and this is stupid, and rips it up, then leaving with my siblings, leaving me to make my own way home. Since I've rambled on for a bit, I'll make the next bit short. I got a ride home in a cop car. I asked a favor at the station since I wanted my mother to learn that a lesson, but I didn't want to go to court or anything. She was told that the law is on my side. Me and my mother are both over 18 and the contract is legally binding. She can either pay me the $300 or I can take her to court over refusing to pay an employee. I got the $300. We didn't speak for over a year. My dad and Nana laughed with me when I told them. Moral of the story: always read a contract before signing it. Edit: a few things I probably mentioned but didn't cross my mind when I wrote it. The cop I got a ride home was a good friend's dad. I didn't go to the station and complain, just asked for a ride and a scare for my mother. My mother is extremely two-faced. If you only know her through her work, then she acts like your best friend. If you know her personally, you know she's a real work of art. And our last story: Mail Karen and property lines. I'm a senior construction superintendent in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. The project I'm currently on is a 13-acre site smack dab in the middle of an extremely affluent area to the north of Dallas. 3 weeks ago, a city inspector that we'll call Joe came into the site office and said they received a complaint about a sprinkler/soaker line being damaged during excavation for the fire lane. He, my landscaper, and myself went to investigate, discovered where a small fitting had blown out of the line. Landscaper repaired it. I went back to knock on the door and explain to them the issue and inform them of the repair. I got no answer at the door, so I left a card and a note asking them to call me. They never did. A week later, Joe comes in and mentions that they've reached out again about the noise from equipment, which is odd because anyone with heavy equipment is currently working on the other end of the property. I again went to speak to them, got no answer at the door, and left a card again. Yesterday, in walks Joe to tell me that they're complaining about our construction fences on their property and killing their grass. The fence is 12 feet from their fence, and our specs call it for to be a minimum of 15 feet from the property line. So I pull up our CAD files on the survey plat so I can make sure we've placed it exact and realize that their wood fence is 4 feet into our property. Their house is about 14 inches onto our property. During all of this, I get an email from the city asking me to place the construction fence squarely on our property line. The email is sent to me, the apparent homeowner, Joe, and my project manager. I brought the surveyors back out yesterday to pinpoint our property corners and give us some 10-foot offsets, reference points 10 feet east of the property line for line of sight to measure from. I knocked on the homeowner's door again and got no answer. Mind you, every time there were cars in the drive. Fast forward to this morning. My fence crew showed up and they began moving the fence onto the property line, which takes 31 inches, 2 feet 7 inches, of their driveway and 18 feet of the road before it ends at the property. It was previously a cul-de-sac. The client finally reached out, or more accurately, came to the site office in a huff. I explained the issue, showed him the plat, and he left with some unkind words flowing from him, like diesel exhaust on a steep incline. I put a pause on the fence relocation just to soothe the wound. My PM called him, I called the city right-of-way engineer and our client, and we set up a meeting that just ended. He claimed that our plat was wrong. The engineer and everyone else disagreed. The back and forth went on long enough for the client, who's an extremely laid-back and quiet gentleman, to finally speak up and basically say, "We're just going to go ahead and tell you the property you've stolen at current market value plus 10%. In this area, that's not cheap. If that's not acceptable, we'll just have you move your fence, cut out your driveway, and use the east side of your home for advertisement. Or you can back off, let these guys work, and we'll give you lifetime use of the area you currently occupy, so long as there's no more hassling of any kind." The guy asked me if we'd move the fence back out, and I told him no. I agreed to take it off his driveway, but the street and green space belonged to us. We only did what he asked us to do. The engineer who asked me to move it agreed. This is a gem. Always fun when jerks realize they have no leg to stand on after all the posturing and arguing. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.